this screen to Facebook. But now I have got you and me on Facebook Live. So are you on Facebook Live?
Working on it.
Don't worry about it.
For some reason, my computer does not like Facebook recently. I don't know what it is. I need to go through and clean stuff out, I guess.
No problem. Well, we're live on Facebook, Scott Savre. How you doing?
Pretty good.
Well,
Bored.
I am so bored. It's hard not to get depressed, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I told everybody on Instagram and Facebook that I was going to be interviewing and you'd be interviewing me. And it's saying that our quality is affected by my CPU. Anyway, I don't like getting messages. I told everybody we'd be on here asking each other questions, Scott. So I moved here about 3.5 months ago and I met Scott Savre at the mics and shows. And he's shown me around the city and introduced me to so many people. Hi, Bruce Leonard. Bruce Leonard's watching, Scott. Say hi.
Hello.
Hi. So we're on here. Scott, let's take turns asking each other questions. So do you have, like, if you were to meet me at a bus stop, which is not difficult to do, what would you ask me if you found out I do comedy as well as you do? And, you know, like I do it like you do it. We have that in common.
I hope you do it better than I do. Yeah, it's yeah, I'm fairly new to this. Frankly, I don't know.
So I'll go first. Like I'm standing at the bus stop and I see somebody like Scott standing there and I'm like, hey, how you doing today? And he's like, oh, when's the bus coming? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm old. And he's like, well, don't you have a phone? How do you know when you're supposed to be back in the home? And so I'd look at my phone and then I'd say, I do comedy. And he goes, that's funny because I do comedy. And then I would probably go, so how long have you been doing comedy, Scott? And he'd say, how do you know my name?
I'm trying to remember when I first did it. It was either the end of 2015 or the beginning of 2016.
Wow.
Basically, I found out about the Dirty, and then I met Just Alex there, and he told me he had the open mic at the dive bar, which I'd never heard of because I was only been in town a couple months. So I just went to the dive bar one night for that open mic, and I watched the show there, and then a couple months later I decided I was going to get up there and give it a go and see what happens. And then, over the last, I don't know, what is it, 3 years or something like that now?
Yeah.
So, I just keep working at it and, do as many open mics as I can, and hopefully my memory will start working someday.
Yeah, you and I both have that in common. And if we talked long enough at a bus stop, we'd figure that out. Because, like, I have memory issues, too. I started in comedy in March of 2014 because I became an empty nester overnight. My daughter said I had enough of you. She can do it on her own now that she's 44. Go figure. And I had to cut her loose. And so, like I started doing comedy, but I had a brain trauma from a car accident in 96. So my first 5.5 years, or 5 years, I don't do math, the first long stretch till just the last 6 months, I was taking big notes on stage. And I was sweating bullets at what I couldn't remember. And everybody was like so inconsiderate. They were like so judgmental. Like, you can't go up with notes. And I'm like, listen, do you want me to bring my psych book? It's this thick. I think I can go on here with notes. I was trying. And it's really hard to get people to be in the mood to laugh when they hear that you have a head injury and you're up there reading notes. You know, like, you got to be some kind of magician to get a laugh out of people. Finally, my brain is starting to wrap itself around material without notes, but gosh. So,
You've been doing this 6 years now?
since March 13th, 2014. So, yeah, 6 years.
You know the actual date. I never remembered that.
Only because that's the day my daughter and I broke up. Not because I'm smart. It was a significant event. It's like, where were you when Kennedy was shot? Where do you go from
Where was
here?
I on March 13th of 2014?
Yes. Yeah, what were you doing?
I was still living in Santa Barbara at that time.
That's a cool town. Did you go to comedy there?
There wasn't a lot of comedy to go to there.
Yeah.
Not that I knew of.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's a big comedy place.
I mean, since I left, it's like now they got a comedy festival there every, I think it's like January, February, something like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I asked Brad Williams the other day when I saw him after The Dirty, and I said, you know, I bought that DVD from him, and it was of that show that he shot at the Libero, which is the theater in Santa Barbara. Really neat theater. I saw some great jazz shows there.
Wow. So before you went up on stage doing comedy, had you gone to like open mics or shows or watched it a lot on YouTube, internet, TV?
I watch it a lot on the YouTube. It's like if you know, it's like when Gabe puts up the headliner for that week. If I don't know who they are, I'll go look on YouTube and to see. But I've been hanging around there long enough. I pretty much know all of them.
I know, and they all know you.
Huh?
And they all know you.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So.
It's good. It's good.
But yeah, it's I've always gone to shows. You know, I went to see Rodney Dangerfield one time in my hometown back when I was in college, and
What?
and then you know, it's just I went saw a show with Bob Hope one time at a local fair.
Oh, wow. What was that like?
Like that, huh?
So you've had a love for it in order to go to these from way back.
Oh yeah, I've always liked. Yeah, it's.
That's so cool.
What got me started was my dad had the Class Clown album, the actual album from the 60s or whatever, 70s or whatever the hell he got that, late 60s, early 70s, something like that. I remember as a kid he had that album up in the top of the closet, and I always looked at that and went, "What's that?" And he's like, "Nah, that's a comedy thing, but you can't listen to it. You're a kid."
Yeah. Now, was that Dangerfield's?
Huh?
Were you talking about Dangerfield's record?
No, George Carlin.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Too big of a jump. I do that sometimes.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, well, yeah, that and the fact that I grew up in the same hometown as Richard Pryor, so.
What? That's so cool. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's, he was born in Peoria, I was born in Peoria. He grew up on the south side, I grew up on the north side, so. And ironically enough, one of the people in my high school class was Richard Pryor Jr.
What? What?
Yeah.
Oh, did I?
Went to Richwoods.
What? Okay, so I have a.
He lives here, at least the one time he lived here in Vegas, I believe.
He was doing a show. He had a residency for a while. So, I have a joke about Richard Pryor. I don't know if I told it to you, but I got to thinking, you know, maybe I should ask the Pryor family if I could get consent to use the name Richard Pryor in a punchline, right? And I wrote to the Richard Pryor family, and Richard Pryor Jr., your classmate, wrote me back and said, "You have our family's blessings to say the joke."
Okay, oh, cool.
That was so cool to me. You know, it feels special. You know, they could have told me go take a hike, white girl, crazy white privileged
Hey,
chick.
his wife was white, so
Really? They're
yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
And, you ever? Yeah. There's some. I think there's some interviews online of her after he passed away.
Oh, I'll be darned.
On YouTube, somewhere on the internet, there's some interviews of her talking about Richard and all the stuff that they went through. Because I can't remember if they got divorced before he died or not. I don't know. I'd have to go look that up.
What's your favorite thing about Richard Pryor? And I'll tell you what mine is after you go. Or if you want a second, I'll go first.
I don't know. Pretty much, to me, the only thing that comes to mind is fearlessness.
Yeah,
He just goes for it.
he is
And
fearless.
he doesn't, it's just like he just brings up any and every subject, and it's just like if you, if you don't like it, fine.
Yeah. I loved the way that when he was doing a skit, he just kept building and building and building. It just kept getting funnier and funnier. It was, like Carol Burnett had those skits, and there were a few of hers that we still remember to this day, but I remember almost everything I ever saw, Richard Pryor do, because he knew how to build it, make it funnier and funnier. You didn't want to turn your head for a second, because you didn't know what he was going to do with his eyes, his voice, his body. I mean, hi, Eddie.
I'm thinking, now that you mentioned this, I'm thinking of that skit he did with Chevy Chase on Saturday Night Live. You remember that one?
No, and I just am negating what I just said. I'm saying I will never forget, and I forgot.
No, it's that one where they're talking about each other, and then they start throwing back derogatory terms towards each other, and they keep taking it up one more notch.
That's what I mean.
If I remember right, the N-word actually did come through at the very end.
That's what I mean about him.
It's a funny ass skit.
I have to look at. Now, who was it with? Because I want to look that up.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's on the internet. I'm sure that's on YouTube somewhere.
Who was it with?
Chevy Chase.
Okay. I got to look that up tonight.
And I'm going to have to go look it up and watch it after we're done.
So what are if they should lift the all clear and we're clear to be safe outside in our world again, because right now I feel like Anne Frank and Facebook's my diary, but should they lift?
Oh, yeah.
But if they should...
Yeah, there's a lot more people out there than I think most people realize.
Yes.
It's it's like there's a fair amount of people in the grocery store. When I was on my way home and stopped to get some food because basically I'm out.
Yeah.
It's like up until today I hadn't been outside my apartment in like 4 or 5 days, something like that.
It gets depressing and lonely.
There's a lot of people out there, and there's a fair amount of people at Home Depot.
Yeah. And they're turning over the food, and there's stuff on the shelves. I mean, we can wipe our butts with coffee filters. We can if we have to.
Yeah, I forgot to get. Actually, it seemed today like it was a different Smith's, but at least that one, it seemed like they had more stuff on the shelves. It's not like Saturday night where I went to Walmart and all the shelves are basically empty. I was just like, holy crap.
Feel like you're in a third world country.
Yeah, it's feel like you're in like Moscow or something, or
Upper Slobobia.
Huh?
Upper Slobobia.
Yeah.
Good God.
They actually had food today and stuff on the shelves, so although I forgot to get my eggs. I didn't get my butter, so I'm start making my garlic toast again.
That sounds good. Yeah. I was thinking about ordering food. I haven't done that. I've kept my costs low because I figure no better time to save. You can't go tootling off to the mall or nothing. And like today I got really tempted to go buy, order something from Denny's and have it brought. And then I thought, how do I know they're not showing up for work sick? So yeah, that's when you start going downhill mentally, when you start having those thoughts.
Yeah. Well, actually, I stopped on the way home and got something from Roberto's because I've been living off of TV dinners for the last 5 nights. Because, like I said, I ran out of bread, ran out of almost everything. It's like I'm going to have to change the way I shop nowadays and actually have a few days worth of food in my apartment at the same time.
Yeah.
That way, if stuff happens like this, I don't have to worry about running out of food.
I know. And we used to have, we have a pantry here for veterans. And I went down there like 3 days ago and there was like almost nothing. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the end of the world if the veterans aren't getting food. But there's been food. It's just that like it used to be stocked to the hilt and now it's I'm playing with my hands.
Oh.
So anyway, when the all clear lifts, have you had time to think about a new approach to your comedy or new goals or same as usual, just more of it or the same amount, less of it?
No, I came up with a couple new jokes for the questions routine, and I still want to go back and hopefully in the next week or so, I'm going to go back and look at my lesbian routine and basically just write that whole thing over again. Because I've got like 3 or 4 pages of different stuff, and it's just like, I need to get it more well-defined and change where I put some of the stuff.
Yeah. I don't know how you do it. Just so you guys know, Bruce, you're still on here probably, and Eddie and Bill. Scott asks one question after another. Pretty much most of your one-liners are in the form of a question, which is brilliant. Cuz there's cuz like it's boring just to be talked to. But when you get asked, what do you think of this or have you ever thought? It pulls the audience in and it helps you to relate to them. And it makes people
have an audience.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, and you got to switch.
Late night open mics where there's only 4 people left doesn't quite work as well.
Yeah. It's like you could, if you're number 45 at Rebar, you could basically say, so what do you think of water? Because they're not paying attention, at that point.
Yeah. I've experienced that more than once. It's, even a champagne's a couple of times, like, nobody even listening.
I know. When I was in...
A couple of comments I could make that sometimes I will make, but because they're kind of extreme.
Yeah.
And usually I'll get if somebody's paying attention, that'll get if they're not paying attention.
Yeah.
They'll turn their head going, what the hell did he say?
I like, when I'm up there and nobody's paying attention, I like going, doing something shocking to somebody way in the back, like just trying to show people I'm not afraid of failing. Are you kidding me? I'm 69 years old. Do you know how many times I've failed in my life? This is no big deal. I can fail. But you, way in the back, what's going on back there in the back of the room, guys? When people aren't paying attention, like I did this dive bar in Portland, Oregon. It's not called the dive bar, but it was a dive. And nobody would pay attention, so I got up to the stage and I said, listen, mother truckers, but I didn't say trucker. And they didn't listen. So I said it louder and more, and took the microphone, pounded it. Like this little lady is telling them to shut the blank up and listen to her. So they stopped talking and listened. It's like, I like it when the odds are against you, Do you like that when it's a weird moment and no one's paying attention, you just keep going anyway?
I'm used to having nobody pay attention to me.
I know, and you work it into your act. That's what I'm saying, is that like you'll go, yeah, no one's listening anyway, I don't even know why I'm up here, and you say these funny things in between your lines based on what you see in the moment, and that makes you funnier. Because I've seen people go up there and go, oh, I might as well kill myself. And how do you think that's going to make you funnier,
Oh, I was like that in the beginning.
Yep, we all.
Now I've had enough bombs where I don't care anymore.
Yeah, I'm like it. I'll bomb. That's half the fun, Like,
everybody's gonna bomb.
Yeah.
Even Richard Pryor bombed in the beginning, probably.
I'll bet.
Or George Carlin or any of every comedian's bombed at least once.
Like I interviewed a lot of headliners at Harvey's in Portland, and the funny thing, out of 39 interviews, nobody talked about when they bombed. And it's like nobody likes to talk about it, but that's where we can learn from each other, So like, what was the biggest lesson or lessons you've learned from bombing?
Don't give up.
There you go. That's right. I remember saying 2 jokes, one about Oprah Winfrey, and then the next joke was about Michael Jackson. And then the next comic that came up after me said, well, I didn't know we were going to have a racist grandma. And and the whole audience broke up laughing because, I don't know, maybe that's what they thought it sounded like. And for 2 weeks I cried, Scott. I cried for 2 weeks. And then I thought, you know what? There's some merit to getting that kind of a response, And I had to take a look and go, I'm white, and why am I telling jokes about one black person, let alone 2 in a row, So I learned from that. I would call that really bombing. The other time I bombed really good. I did comedy in a battered women's shelter, and I had battered issues from the 70s in the military, right? And I thought, oh, these are women. We're all a team. I can go in there and tell them these scenarios that I've made funny. Well, one thing I didn't calculate is they just ran away from their abusers not last week or the week before, so it's fresh in their mind. They haven't even had time for PTSD to set in yet, and here I am from 30 years ago, and I've had time to make it funny. I had the whole room crying and triggered, coming up to me like, what gives you the right to make this funny? And it wasn't funny at the time, but now I go, what was I thinking that I did that? I don't know what I was. Yeah. So those are the 2 worst bombs ever. And I deserved both of them.
Comedy's always about timing.
Yeah, and knowing your audience.
Of the joke, and then which joke to tell when.
Yes.
I think I told you about that the Silverton Casino or something like Silver something, where Ralph was doing that gong show thing for a while, and that was a predominantly African American audience.
Oh.
So basically, after being there one week just to watch, I wrote some stuff specifically for that audience, and they loved it. I mean, I had them rolling, and which was kind of weird to me. I love it. I got gonged off the stage that time.
You did?
Huh?
You got gonged that time when they were loving you?
Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah, it's one of the judges' personality conflict thingy. But the lady, I just walked off the stage, walked outside the room where Ralph was, and a lady came out afterwards and said, "Man, you were the funniest one up there tonight."
Exactly.
Thanks.
Yeah, you've got smart jokes, and you cut out all the extra. It's nothing but the joke. Not a lot of story and a lot of extra words, and you're not trying to put on a dog and pony show. Just get to the meat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know if I'd be any good at improv or not because I don't think of myself as a storyteller type comedian.
Yeah. No. Well, you're proving that you don't need to be a storyteller type comic. You do very well. I don't know a lot of people that can do what you do. You know, it's really hard to string one-liners. We have a guy in Portland, Alex Avery, and he started out, probably about the same time I did, you know, and he started out with the darkest comedy one-liners. He didn't care if people were on board. He just started out dark. You know, he'd come up to the stage, tall, skinny guy. Very unassuming, he would go dark. And he'd talk about suicide, death, you know, and he's had to like learn to ease them into it, you know, and ask permission to go dark. But he's like, he does one-liners one after another. It's, you know, yeah.
I never actually realized that I was doing one-liners until, a month or so ago. It's just, that stuff just, it kind of became I kind of backed into it, sort of. It just, I was doing the lesbian routine for a few months, and then somehow I ended up doing one question, and then two questions, new one, and although the last Rebar show, I did a joke about the math class and the Asian kid, Jay seemed to have gone, "Oh, that's a little too, going too far with that one." And I went, "Really? Some of the other jokes I do, you tell me that's the one I go too far on?" It's like, okay. You gotta write the rules down for this, because you're using me. There's the other jokes I do that I would have thought you would have jumped all over them first. But, it's sort of like, Pryor and other comedians. You just got to go for it.
Yeah, that's right. And like that's the thing that'll get you booked on the big clubs, is if you'll swing for the fences and not stop where just because it's not politically correct. If you'll push past that, people will laugh on the other side of it. If there's a real talent to taking something and pushing it so far that people have to laugh. Like they're almost laughing at themselves, not laughing at it. And that's...
Some of my jokes are, it's like the one about that I open with, the black people in the white sale routine. And, and I've never done the continuation part of that joke, but I told it to you, and it's just,
yep.
It would require some black people being in the audience to make any sense.
Yeah.
But, if I ever do a set for Steve's show, that there's usually a couple black people there, and I know one of them sort of, so I might use him for the joke. It's like, it depends.
Yeah.
My biggest problem is just remembering all the damn jokes.
I know.
That's why I have to use my little cheat card that hopefully people don't see too much, but it's kind of obvious when I'm looking at my hand.
It's so tiny. I don't know how you see it. I'd need binoculars. I don't know.
I've got really good vision far away.
That's good.
Now, when I was a kid, I used to be able to read the highway signs a mile before we got to them.
What?
Yeah, it's weird.
That's crazy.
I can't read anything within 18 inches of my eyes without glasses now, but I can read the eye chart at the clinic. I can stand 5 feet behind the line you're supposed to stand at, and I can still read the second from the bottom line.
Good Lord.
Which is, I remember asking the first time I realized I could do that, and I was like, "Is that normal?"
What'd they say?
I said, "Is that normal?" I'm thinking that's probably not real normal. though I've had to wear reading glasses for 10 years now, it still seems weird to me.
Yeah.
Because my brother needed glasses, my sister has always needed glasses, but for some reason, I never did. I have really good vision. I don't know. I don't know if that's a genetic thing or what the hell it is. But
Yeah.
Kind of sucks when I can't find my glasses because nowadays I can't see because I'm old.
I've got one pair of glasses left in my apartment to my name, and both temples are broken, and I'm out of Scotch tape. So when these fall apart, I'm not walking to the dollar store. I'll get, they could be out there hitting people over the head for money now. For all I know, I'm not going. Not going.
Yeah, I just buy 3 or 4 of them every once in a while at the dollar store, Dollar Tree, whatever the hell it is.
Uh-huh.
And, because they break fairly easy because they're cheap. But,
Exactly.
as long as I can read what I want to read, and I have some backups I leave in my truck. I got something that I leave in the apartment, like a couple of different rooms. So hopefully I don't need to go looking around for them.
So speaking of...
How did you end up...
What? You go. What?
How did you end up doing comedy?
So I always made people laugh my whole life. I was the one that the family counted on when they were arguing to interrupt them with a joke or whatever. And then, I made a Buckingham Palace guard laugh once. I made Kathy Griffin laugh. I made, whenever I run into some celeb, I'll make them laugh. And I always thought this is what it sure would be fun to try it. And so then, in March of 2014, my daughter and I needed some time apart, which is still going on, unfortunately. But in March 2014, I was like, I don't really want to live without my daughter in my life. I know I need something bigger. What would that be? Comedy. So I called up this comedy club in Murrieta, California, that's no longer in existence. So I outlived a comedy club, go figure. And I called them up and I said, how would you like to help me save my life? And they're like, what? And I said, can you get me in today to teach me how to do comedy? Because I don't really want to live. And they got me in at 2:00 and started teaching me comedy. And then so when I got in there, then I started meeting people that were veterans. And there was this guy named Will and Yvonne Morton, him and his wife. They have a nonprofit in LA, and they do comedy for veterans in 3 different counties in Southern California. It's called amillionlaughs.org. And I started going around with them, and I thought, I can do this by myself. I don't need anybody telling me what to do, because you know the deal. We're just independent artists sometimes. And so I started going around to nursing homes and veteran places and old places and battered women's shelters and homeless shelters, and started doing comedy. But I didn't feel like I was a real comic. So then I took that class from Jerry Corley that really taught me how to write 30 jokes a day. And then I felt confident then to really go on stage. So that's kind of it.
So did you pick a certain style that you wanted to try and do, or you just...
Oh my God.
...comedy and found the style that way?
Well, my memory was so bad at the beginning because of the car accident in 96, and I started in 2014. And so I had no confidence to memorize and recall information in the dark with spotlights on me. I mean, it literally was triggering partial seizures at the time. And I was falling off stages because I couldn't see the edge of the stage. I was still having residual brain trauma stuff. And now all of that has disappeared. And in the last 6 months, my memory and my confidence have come. But up until then, and you talk about a long walk in a long woods to find out what kind of comedy. I didn't know what the hell, I didn't know who I was or what I wanted to be. And then I started asking people. That's what helped me the most. Is I went on the streets in Philly and New York, and I said, when you look at me, what do you see? When you look at me, what do you want me to say? What do you not want me to say? What do you think is funny? If an older person talks, what do you young people want an older person to say and not say? And I started asking strangers on the street all kinds of interrogative, questions of what they like an old person to do on stage. And then I went home and juggled it and thought, I think what I want to get away with is being self-deprecating, but I haven't been successful. Just like a year ago, I was so frustrated because I want to be self-deprecating, but where they're on board with it, not feeling sorry for me. And what that meant is not talking about the brain injury anymore, not talking about blood clot, nothing, no baggage. No more Debbie Downer stuff, just only make their night out fun, And so then I decided I'm going to be that crazy old woman that is trying to fool herself that she's not getting older and that she's trying to have a lot of fun, and she's winning at having a lot of fun, and that people are on board with this old lady is quirky, a little goofy, and I get away with like murder on stage because they know I'm comfortable because I've found who I lately, like, it's not that I'm any funnier now than I was 6 months or a year ago. It's just that I found that sweet spot of who somebody challenged, this is the coolest lesson I learned, is that somebody asked me, a comic named Paul Lyons in Philly, he asked me, have you ever thought about the word authentic with relation to your comedy? And I thought, I'm sure there's a compliment in there somewhere. And I got to really meditating on what does it mean to be authentic. And when I was on stage for the first 5.5 years, I wasn't being authentic. I wasn't saying what I really felt. I was writing jokes about superfluous stuff that I wasn't even personally connected with, expecting them to be connected. But when I started being challenged about being authentic, I authentically really get pissed when people ignore me. It hurts me. It makes me feel sad. It makes me feel like I'm not even an integral part of society. So I turned that into my whole thing about I like getting older except for if you ignore me. And then I go off oh, you don't want to ignore me, and it's true, I'll do anything for attention. So I say that on stage, I'll wear prom gowns, hooker heels, and I will march. Don't ignore me. You will find me jumping in every casino pool just to get noticed, And that's exactly how, and then people respond to that because it's really you. So I don't know. So I didn't really, in being authentic, I also became self-deprecating as a side effect, but I quit trying to just be self-deprecating and I focused on being what do I really feel? What am I passionate for, against, and then it all gelled for me. That's how it feels right now, that things have gelled lately, but not for 5.5 years before now. Nothing gelled. Are you kidding me? I used to have to do sit-ups to get people in Portland to listen to my comedy and give out gifts at the end. Nobody wanted to hear me talk. They'd roll their eyes and poke each other. Oh, not going to go out for a cigarette till I'm done. True, it's true. Ask anybody in Portland, they'll go, God, we remember, we know she's funnier now, but we remember. And Barry Keller's on here. I was on at Greenwich Village Comedy Club, and he was the host 2 years ago, Barry. And my first joke killed, and I was like, okay, good night, that's about my time. And I literally didn't want to do the rest of my jokes. Why would you if your first joke killed and you had a long history of sucking? But I did some jokes.
Yeah, I've had a few times like that myself. It's just kind of I'm going, I'm thinking this is funny, but apparently the audience does not.
Some of my favorite jokes, nobody's on board, and I'm like, really? I guess it's just for me. Okay, never mind.
Well, that's
I know.
It's sort of a gift to myself. It's like, I know this is a dumb joke, but, it's only one of, what is it, 10 or 12 or whatever. So,
I like putting in a joke that I know they're not going to laugh, and then you have a tag for it. Like, if you were laughing, I know you want to date me. Because nobody thinks that joke's funny. So, yeah.
So I'm assuming since you broke up with your daughter the day you started this, that she doesn't know you do stand-up.
I'm sure that she's savvy in technology, and somebody has had to take a screenshot of one of my goofy ass jokes and send it to her. But when we went our separate ways, she blocked me on Facebook. She wants her own life. I raised her and spoiled her, and she wants her own life. And so I'm sure she knows that I do comedy. My dream would be that someday I'm at Madison Square Garden and not cleaning the bathrooms and on stage, and she's in the front row. Like sometimes you just have to have a pipe dream. That's my pipe dream.
Oh yeah, I've had a few. They all turned out to be bombs, but
yeah.
I still don't understand some of them, but it is what it is.
There's a guy, speaking of Madison Square Garden, there's this comic in New York named Greer Barnes. He's on Facebook. Greer, middle initial V, like Victor Barnes. And he got to be an opener for somebody, I don't know, Seinfeld. He got to be an opener for Seinfeld at Madison Square Garden, like, I don't know, 30, 50,000 people. And he killed at Madison Square Garden. Somebody like, at the time, like he was kind of at our level, trying to get booked. And he gets booked at Madison Square Garden and kills the room.
Sometimes things just connect, the right place, the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. So,
Way life goes. Things don't always work out. Sometimes, I inadvertently started a secret charity in the 80s, and it was not supposed to end. It was supposed to be a one-time deal, whole thing. Next thing I knew, it was 16 years later, and it had turned into a big charity, and I was kind of like, was not my plans of things to do in life. It turned out to be pretty fun.
You told me about that charity, and I admire you so much for doing that. I know that you don't probably want to talk about it here because you're more humble, but do you want to talk about it?
The charities seem to find me for some reason. It's like the clinic now. It's just like the only reason I found them is that a lady tried to kill me by running me over and messed up my back and hip and stuff. And I just moved to Vegas, so it's just sort of like I needed to find a doctor, and I had no money.
Yeah.
And I ended up finding this clinic, and it wasn't too far from where I lived at the time. So, basically was able to walk down, walk the mile or so, and next thing I know, I'm doing all the work at that charity.
Yeah.
Maintenance stuff.
Yeah. That's kind of like how I fell into comedy because of my daughter and me going our separate ways. And then I fell into doing comedy for veterans. So.
I'd like to do that someday.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, I've always, always been it's like my stepdad was a Navy veteran. My grandfather fought in World War I. So, I've always had a lot of respect for veterans, especially the grunts.
Yeah. Have you told Dante and Rebecca that Dante's up on the board at the Dirty? Dante Ruscatelli. He goes by Dante on stage.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You should.
I haven't been there in a while.
No. He's been so busy with his own things, you know. Not so much this week, but none of us have.
Yeah, it's, I was thinking about sending something to the mayor of Las Vegas, going, you know, it's or also thought about sending something to Gabe, too. She'd do an extra long show for the first one back after this.
Yes.
You know, instead of have 2 or 3 comedians, have, you know, like 4 or 5 or maybe even 6 comedians, you know?
Yes.
It's,
remember that guy that sits in the front with all his friends that wanted us, you and me, to do our sets for him on the side?
oh, yeah, yeah.
We need to get a hold of him somehow when this lifts and do that for him. This cloistering him in his, you know, like he has a caregiver that takes care of him and blah, blah, blah. It'd be nice for him to have a special treat.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, he's a veteran. I think he's an Army veteran.
Oh, okay.
So that'll be your first Army comedy.
Yeah. Just like my grandfather. And I tried to become an Army guy, but they didn't want me. I was defective, so. You know. Well, apparently duct tape and baling wire is not accepted in the Army. Or any military, for that matter.
What?
Pretty much.
So, like, are you at liberty to say what the defectiveness was that they found?
Oh, it's asthma.
What?
Asthma.
Asthma. Okay, got it.
Yeah, I've had chronic asthma my whole life, basically. And apparently that's one thing that will get you the door slammed in your face when it comes to the military. Not just the Army, basically all of them. If you have asthma, it's like, it's a no-go. It's what got me kicked out of doing plasma donations because I had an asthma attack.
Wow.
And had, you know, I think I told you about the time where I was on a bone marrow donor list, and basically there were some problems there because of the asthma, you know, because they didn't want to put me under anesthesia due to the asthma, which I can understand because he wouldn't have had operations in the past on knees, shoulders, and stuff. It's they're kind of picky of certain things being done certain ways because I've got asthma, and they don't want me to quit breathing on the surgical table.
They're so picky.
Yeah. What I used to say in one of my comment things is apparently, you know, I'm an attempted veteran. Turns out the military doesn't like it when you quit breathing occasionally. It's like, the thing was, though, at the time when I was in high school and I was talking to the recruiter for the Army, I was on the track team.
Whoa. With asthma?
Yeah. I was the slowest guy on the track team, but, you know, it's just, well, I was doing the 440, 880, and all that stuff. And turns out, I just like to run at high speed. Well, the problem with me is, when you got asthma, you can't do it that long. You know, I get out running anybody for 300 yards. Fortunately, the race was 440, so.
Did you know I ran track in college? I ran track. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah.
Ran what?
I ran track. I ran the mile. Ah.
That's the last race I ever ran in high school was a mile.
How'd you do?
I had a Charlie horse 600 yards into it. And basically that was the end of the season for me because my leg was so messed up by the time I finished the mile. I walked straight for three weeks.
I won a race in college because we'd been out partying the night before, but I don't drink alcohol. At least I didn't then. And so the two girls that were in first and second had been drinking a lot of alcohol, and they were technically still drunk. So they were running distracted. and they started upchucking before the finish line, and I went past them and won.
Oh, wow.
Have you ever heard of
I've
the...
heard that one before.
Yeah, that's how I won. And then, have you ever heard of the Joggers Mile?
No.
Well, that's when a bunch of loser runners like me, you go and you clock your stride and how long it's going to take you to do the mile. And then you get out there with a bunch of other losers that aren't trying to run fast. And you bet who is going to run their race the closest to the time they wrote down that they're going to do it. So you predict, you know, like, so I was out there like a mad woman, like, okay, my feet have to be this far apart, and how's this go? Or how am I going to do this? And I won because I got it spot on exactly. I told him I was going to do it in 14 days, and sure enough, you know, whatever I picked, I did it because I had studied it like a horse, you know, like I studied it like you wouldn't believe. And not because I was a good runner, Scott. You getting tired?
No, I just, something beeped on my phone.
We can hang up. We did a good job talking to each other, and people have been on here. Bruce Leonard was watching, or still is. Eddie D. Williams, Bill Thompson, Lindy Baker was on. Shell's Shampoo, Harry from Portland, and Barry Keller from LA. So we had some people listening.
There are a lot of people.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I don't know if anyone's still on there, but it was fun, and I got the technology working, so who cares?
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, got a split screen.
How many people you could have on this thing?
If you pay 14...
200 people on one of these things, then you could do a comedy show.
I know, you can. It's $14.99 a month, and I think that you could probably have 6 or 8 people on the screen and 150 people listening, like in the meeting. But this is free. So, yeah, you could get more people on the screen. So, and there's room here. You see up at the top and bottom, and there's room for 4 more people. So, yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. But I'm so happy that I haven't yet figured out how to get Zoom all by itself onto Facebook. I have to do Facebook on my cell phone, taping the laptop. But hey, it works.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, whatever works. Yeah. You're everywhere. You're on my laptop.
Works.
Yeah. It's been fun talking to you. I don't feel like I'm here alone as much when I'm talking to people on audio like this. Video. Audio, video.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think a lot of people are having issues with that right now.
Yeah.
Being alone most of the time, so for me, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
I go and do work on something.
Yeah.
Work on the clinic,
It's so nice that you work at the clinic and volunteer time there. It's awesome.
A little windy today, but other than that, not too bad.
It was so windy.
Getting close to finishing a lot of stuff up, so that's kind of cool. Finally, didn't know it was going to turn out to be quite as big a project as it turned into.
What were you working on?
Originally it was supposed to be just put a new fence up around the place, but then I saw other things and went, well, as long as I'm here, might as well fix that. And then saw something else, fix that, and things just kind of added up, and, did the 2 custom doors for the place. And now I'm using the old fence parts to make a bench for the people that come to the clinic when they're waiting outside the gate before we open.
Nice. That's a nice touch.
Yeah, it's
And they can sleep on it at night.
Well, I don't know if probably good.
Yeah.
Better than the ground, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spent enough nights sleeping on the ground before, so.
Me too.
Or in the back of the truck.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Well, thank you for your time. It's been fun.
You're welcome.
All right.
I enjoyed doing this.
Yeah, this is fun. I could,
Hopefully we'll be able to meet in person soon again.
I know, right? Gosh. You have to stay 6 feet away from people and then they get offended. Like, I was at 7-Eleven, a guy comes, huh? I was at,
It's a little X every 6 feet at Home Depot for the line to get in, so you stay the 6 feet apart.
yeah,
It's like, okay, that's kind of weird, but I don't know. There's a lot of this stuff about this COVID-19 thing that's a little weird. I was like, really, people, listen, are we kind of going a little extreme on this?
I know.
But again, I could be going wrong.
I know.
Wrong many.
I sure don't want to get it because like I'm allergic to medicines. That medicine that they came out with that's the cure, it's got chlorine in it and I'm allergic to that. Like I will be one of the first to croak if I get it with a lung issue and you with asthma. Do you think?
Yeah, that's the only thing that would worry me is if I ended up getting it that, you know, it would probably be expensive as hell for me, medical bills wise.
Yeah.
Or maybe not if it kills me real good.
Well, thanks.
But, yeah, you know, I even mentioned to the doc the last time I saw him that it's the one thing apparently that it goes after respiratory systems and being an asthmatic and having had lung injuries, it's like, that's not the way I want to die.
Yeah, that would be horrible.
Only suffocate.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of the worst ways.
Yeah. Well, it's nothing to joke about, and I'm glad a lot of people are taking it seriously to a point, you know, because we're starting to get information in from Italy, how serious it is. I don't know about you. How old are you?
57.
Oh, so you could still go live in Italy for 3 years. Me.
When they get rid of you, 60 or something?
I can't believe they have it like you'd think that if you're a doctor or some kind of integral part of society that they would let you have medicine, you know, but like if you're 60, you get no help at all. That seems like a little bit just cut and dry. 60? Okay, don't even bother. Let's go and die in a corner. But I don't know. I guess everybody has to make choices.
I should go visit Italy before I turn 60.
Exactly. I guess I won't be seeing Italy anytime on this planet. I was there in Italy in 74. I'm still mad because nobody pinched me.
Oh.
You know? I got a cross to burn with Italy. Not that they haven't had their own. Anyway, enough about Italy.
San Francisco.
What?
Maybe they'll pinch you in San Francisco.
Yeah. Yeah. The girls will. Okay, I'll let you go.
Whoop. I screwed up here. Oh, there we are. I lost myself up there for a second. Okay.
Let's do it again.
Huh?
Let's come up with a couple topics to talk about next time besides ourselves.
Okay.
Okay.
That sounds good.
It says my internet's unstable. It's like, yeah, get a grip. Everything about me is unstable. I'm a comic. See you later.
You gotta be a little bit that way to be a comic, I think.
Thank you. Thank you.
Normal is not usually a word used associated with comedians.
Not. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, you guys. Hi, Sally Ann, Barry, Harry, Shells, Lindy, Eddie, Bill, Eddie, Bruce. Love you all. Bye.